Nancy, I've never met a neurologist with a good personality. I mean, good people can one.
My name is Dennis Bourdette. I do have a personality. I'm from Oregon Health and Sciences University. Now, for 18 years, I've been hearing from the two Drs. Weiner that they might be related. When do they get genetic testing?
You got to release our birth certificates.
And very briefly, we have two areas that I'm very excited about that we're doing research on. One is related to how we may be able to treat progressive disease. We're studying treatments that make the mitochondria, which are the energy factories of the cells, work better. Because we believe part of the problem in progressive MS is the failure of energy. And we're working on therapies to enhance the function of mitochondria. We also recently discovered a herpes virus that causes a multiple sclerosis-like disease in monkeys. And we believe that it's a unique virus, and we believe that understanding how this virus causes an MS-like disease in monkeys may tell us a lot about how viruses might trigger MS. And there's even a small possibility that a similar virus might play a role in MS. So that's a very exciting project. And we're deeply honored to be part of this Nancy Davis Center Without Walls, and very grateful to Nancy Davis' inspired leadership.
I'm Dr. Emmanuelle Wabant, and as you've heard from Dr. Weiner, I'm the medical director of the group, and you can imagine I have a tough job keeping these doctors under control. All because of their personality, of course. I work at the University of California, San Francisco. I see patients, so I design clinical trials to try to develop better drugs, and I have a specific interest in developing drugs that protect nervous cells from additional damage. And I also work with pediatric MS patients, and I take care of these patients, and I try to understand what's specific about pediatric MS. And in the past year, collaborating with other centers that see also pediatric MS patients, we have found that there may be viruses actually acquired in childhood that could protect against developing MS. So we're moving forward with a larger national project to first confirm our data and if that's the case, understand better risk factors for MS in general. And I want to thank Nancy for supporting all these years. It makes a big difference, and everybody's always happy to come here, gather, and share their research, and everybody's always exciting. We're never on time with our meetings because we always have to say more things than we're supposed to be doing to keep us on time, but it's really wonderful to collaborate that way.
Hi, my name is Dr. Kaplan, and I'm a member of the John Hopkins MS Center, and I'm going to try not to end on a down note, but I study depression and cognitive impairment in multiple sclerosis, and I'm a little different than the other doctors on the panel in that I'm a psychiatrist. You know, there's the joke when the psychiatrist does it hate to screw in a light bulb. The answer is just one, but the light bulb has to want to change. What we're doing at Hopkins in addressing depression and cognitive impairment is trying to help people to want to change the way we view mental illness and depression. So the three important things to know about depression and MS is one, that it's important. Suicide is the third leading cause of death in multiple sclerosis. Depression is the #1 correlate of quality of life. And despite this, despite its great importance, it's also important that it's not a personal weakness. So one of the things that we're doing is understanding how inflammation can affect many different aspects of people's symptoms, like strength, weakness, balance, and these kinds of things. But it also affects the brain and causes depression. So one of the exciting things is that we now have done magnetic resonance spectroscopy, which is just a fancy way of saying we're looking at the chemistry of the brain in patients with MS who are depressed and not depressed. And the good news is that we're actually coming up with the ability to see the depression in the brains. That's important because the EEG helped us understand that epilepsy is not a personal weakness, that it's actually caused by changes in the brain. So the ability to visualize this is very important. The last thing I'll just tell you about some of the advantages of looking at these things is that we saw a change in the chemistry of the brain that correlated with concentration and how patients performed on paper and pencil tests. We then took, with Kristen Ron, who's my postdoc, who's here in the audience and has come out here with me, took drugs that affected the levels of this chemical in the brain, and Kristen has demonstrated that she can make mice with an animal form of MS perform 70% better on tests of mazes and how they remember things. So the good news is that we now have, at least in an animal model, a treatment that has a profound effect in improving concentration and memory. The last thing I just want to tell you about depression is that it's treatable, and that's the key. If you recognize it, that it is treatable. And one of the other things that's interesting is now we're starting to understand that the treatments for depression also affect MS, and these appear to be not just good for depression, but they appear to be good for MS, and some of them. And so that's sort of an exciting area that we're moving forward with, is to understand better how depression is caused by MS, but itself too can improve MS if you recognize the depression and treat it with some of the medications we have available. So thanks for your time. The last thing I just wanted to say is, again, as you can tell, this is sort of a family of centers that Nancy has put together. We had a great loss this year. Jack Griffin, who was the head of the Hopkins effort here in partnering with Peter Calabrese, passed away just a couple of weeks ago. And we were very moved here at Hopkins. Stephen Hauser got up and said some really lovely things. So it really is a family, and thank you, Stephen, for doing that. So it is a family being a part of this, as you can see how Nancy has organized it. And I think we all work better as a family, and we're all very passionate about this. And it really comes, Nancy leads by example. And so thank you, Nancy.
Well, I'm Claudia Carty-Hill. I'm the moderator of this panel, and all I have to say about MS is it's complicated. 23 years ago, I was diagnosed with MS, although I had symptoms a lot further earlier in my life. And I lived in Texas. It was very hot in Texas, for those of you who live in Texas. And the heat really bothered me. I was told there were no drugs at that time, so I was told to go home and rest. But I had a 7-year-old son, and so that just didn't work out for me. So I moved to Colorado, Aspen, Colorado, and that's where I met Nancy 18 years ago. And I volunteered, and she talked me into putting together a forum like this, only it was much smaller then. And I've been doing it ever since. So thank you, Nancy, we've come a long way. There's drugs now, so I'm very happy. Now, what we're going to do next is a lightning round of questions. So, Stephen? Yeah? Yeah, Stephen's going to... Yeah, Dr. Hauser, if you have any questions, we want you to send them up front or bring them up front. Somebody can come get them for you if you can't get them up here. And